Welcome, Oksana, to the Why It Works podcast, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Joe. Pleasure to be here.
I got the sense from your bio and your website that travel has really been a big part of your life. And I was wondering, how has travel influenced your perspective and your personal development?
Oh, you're right. Originally, I'm from Russia, so that's already been a travel. I'm born and raised in Russia, and I think I got the travel bug since I was little. I just wasn't able to express it because I was born in the Soviet Union and the borders were closed. I got my first out of the country travel when I was at the age of 16. I came to the United States for a year, and there the world kind of expanded, that you live in your tiny place and you're surrounded by your environment, and all of a sudden you have this opportunity to see different things. So the way the world travel shaped me is getting different perspectives, being more diverse in the way I was thinking, the more in the way I was perceiving things. And it's just fascinating to learn different cultures and different views and how people do things differently.
Yeah, I think that's so great and so amazing the impact that it can have on someone. And I had read somewhere that it's a real great gift if you're able to do that to travel with your children. It's a great gift for them to sort of expand their perspectives.
Absolutely. I think it adds so much more to the emotional, mental development for children and adults. So it's our natural, innate curiosity that we satisfy when we're able to see different places and explore. And we'll have that little child that wants to explore the things.
Excellent. Well, let's get to know you a little bit better. So tell us what you do, but explain it to us as if you were talking to a 5-year-old.
In a nutshell, I work with companies inside. I work with people inside the companies to bring more presence, peace, productivity to their lives. I bring practices and the tools for them to feel less stressed, more energized, and enjoy what they do with more ease.
More ease, less stress. I think all of us could use that.
Yes, yes.
Great. Well, I am so excited to have you here today, and let me tell you why. I first came across meditation and mindfulness when I started training in Aikido. And one of the funny things I noticed after I had gotten into it a while was a lot of the benefits I was experiencing was actually outside of the dojo, so outside of the physical training aspects. It was really in my personal and work life. I could notice a shift, and it was just so beneficial to me. And I think it's really great that you're bringing that sort of practice and that shift to people in the workplace. Uh, Tell us a little bit about when you realized that this was your passion and your path.
Sure. Well, first I want to acknowledge that, yes, this practice is really, it's not about the practice itself. Practice is a preparation for what is happening in the world and how you pursue life and work. And practice is there to prepare so we less react and more able to respond. And just with like any practice, you do that before the actual event. The way I got into mindfulness and meditation is actually by chance. I did not ever plan to practice nor teach. I did not know these words when I used to live in Russia. As I was progressing with my life, I was relying on these tools as self-help and personal development and personal improvement. Through a series of events, I ended up going to India as I was going deeper and deeper into the practice and wanted to study from the source, from the origin and the source. And little did I knew that when I signed up as a simple yoga teacher's training, I thought I'll learn about the poses and what's the history behind them. But it was a huge transformational experience for me. I was in the lowest Himalayas in India, and I spent almost a month there. And I literally became a different person. When I came back, I had two questions. Would it work for people that have never been to India? Because it's really easy. I mean, it's not really easy. It's easier to submerge yourself once you are outside of your own environment. And also, would it work for people that did not practice before, that did not have that bug to wanting to learn these tools? So I offered business meditation to a business community in Miami, in downtown Miami, in the co-working space where I was working that time,
Hmm.
without really expecting anything. I just wanted to practice myself and test it on other people and see would it work? It was a curiosity bug. And I did not expect the results that people were sharing with me. They literally brought me to tears, and I found the passion. It was something that I've never experienced before. I'm originally hospitality, business development, sales professional. And like many of us, I liked what I do, but I didn't see the deeper meaning inside. It was more of a training and career development and career path. And here, the first time in my life, I actually fell in love, and I felt the passion, and I felt the meaning behind what I do. So researching a little bit on the business aspect of it, I realized there's huge potential on both ends. And about 6 to 8 months later, I decided that's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wow, great story. What I love about that is that, you know, you say you kind of fell into it, you never meant to, but what I heard is you actually took the plunge with that first kind of seminar that you did for people. I mean, how many people think like, oh, this is great, I'd love to share it, but they don't really, you know, not, I don't want to say make the effort, but they don't actually go ahead and try it and put themselves out there. And I think it's just such a wonderful part of your story that you kind of had the courage to do that. And then from there, it's all the business development, all the usual things that, you know, people don't talk about. But I think that's a really great part of your story that you had the courage to go out and do that.
Thank you. Well, accountability piece of it really helped. As with any practice, you know that sometimes it dies out. You do something out of your passion, but then you actually need other people to push you when you don't feel like it. So this was my way to hold myself accountable for the days where maybe I don't feel like I want to meditate, or maybe I'm not in the mood, or life gets in the way. So I wanted to hold myself accountable on a totally different level. It definitely did the trick. Now I'm in it for life.
All right, great. Well, sometimes what we think is happening is the most important thing rather than what's actually happening in reality, which this next comedic scene illustrates.
It's okay, guys. It's just a wreck. Ricky can handle it.
Now, that's one of the nastiest wrecks you'll ever see.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh.
It's all right. You're safe. You're safe. We got you.
I'm on fire. I'm on fire.
Okay.
Oh.
It's all right. You're not on fire.
I knew it. You're lying. I'm burned.
There is no fire.
I'm on fire.
Come back here.
But something looks wrong. I mean, he's running around like he's on fire.
Oh, my God. Help me. I don't want to die. Oh, stop, drop, and roll.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby.
I'm on fire.
You're not on fire.
But I'm not even sure he even knows where he's at right now.
This makes us all realize the kind of pressure these drivers are under.
Mr. Bobby, come on down here.
Help me, Jesus. Help me, Jewish God. Help me, Allah. Ah! Help me, Tom Cruise.
But how did he get down to his underwear that fast?
Tom Cruise using witchcraft on me to get the fire off me.
Look, here, help's coming.
Wait a minute.
It's Cal Naughton.
Again! Please don't let the invisible fire burn my friend!
He's jumping on Ricky, trying to put the non-existent fire out.
Now, that's a teammate right there.
This is going downhill fast. I think it'd be a great time to go to commercial break myself.
Help me, Oprah Winfrey!
So this is a typical example of how our mind can get tricky. And if we don't use mindfulness to get present and to get grounded into what the reality of the situation, we're really running like with our heads on fire. And it's funny that you picked this segment because sometimes I start my presentation with the opening question. What if your office was on fire? Your office or home was on fire? Would you consider, would you continue business as usual? And most of the people are gonna like, no. There was at least sometimes there's someone like, yeah, I'll finish what I do and then I'll go and address it. So that's an extreme case. But the majority of people rationalize that they would address it, right? That they would not do something, that they would do something about fire before they continue their ordinary activities. However, in real life, that's not really what happens. And the analogy of fire is the stress. We get so caught up into us being busy, into us overachieving, into us pushing our limits. How many people try to work when they're sick? How many people working on their vacation? So that mental fire or imaginary fire, it's constantly pushing us beyond the limits of what is necessary and typically jeopardizing our health and the well-being and the other aspects of life.
Yeah, and I imagine when you do that, it's in the service of some sort of performance or something you're trying to accomplish. But what's a little bit ironic about it is you're actually, more often than not, you're hurting your overall performance and health. You're not able to be your best when you're not dealing or letting that stress sort of go out. I imagine you see that with a lot of your clients.
Well, that is the illusion of conditioning. Since look at our children, look at our society, especially in the Western world, but Eastern kind of catching up to that too. The overachievement at all costs is praised. We push our kids since the age of 3 now to be the best in the kindergarten, to complete the school, all the little badges and stars and everything. That is training the overachievement at all costs. And the disconnect between our personal well-being and what is valued in society, that creates very strong imbalance and conditioning on people. So I would say that it's becoming not really a choice. It's not what people consciously choose to do. It's becoming a habit. And yes, it is detrimental for health. And what I am striving is to bring awareness back into the reality that, yes, if you give yourself active break, if you give yourself a slack, you will be more productive. You will multiply time. And you will actually save time on making less mistakes, being sharper, and having stronger relationship with yourself and with others.
What I think is really insightful about what you're saying, Oksana, is that idea of the conditioning. Like, the people aren't even aware that they're doing this. It's like a fish doesn't know it's in water, right? And they're just going about, and they're like, of course, this is the way I'm supposed to respond. They don't even realize that there's another option, a better option in terms of their health and their performance.
Yes, this fire is real. The fire that, even though it's funny for us to watch and it's imaginary and sometimes you can see it on other people, when it comes to doing it yourself, it's hard to notice because exactly, you're right, you are in it. You start not noticing that you are in the water when you are in the water. And the practices of mindfulness and meditation do exactly that. They bring awareness of your conditioned behaviors, of your patterns, because once you slow down and you start noticing them over and over and over and over, eventually something clicks and it becomes an aha moment of something that always been there.
It's fascinating to me how our own minds can often get in our way. So let's take a look at an example of this.
Please forgive. Too many mind.
Too many mind?
Hi. Mind the sword. Mind the people watch. Mind the enemy. Too many mind. No mind.
No mind.
Well, it's actually a very interesting and accurate description of another aspect that I do through my workshops and seminars, the aspect of going beyond the mind. People usually think that there's only one mind that we are dealing with, and that's the voice in our head. So first of all, mind is brain in action. So our brain fires up on electrode level and neurons level, but then the interpretation and that voice that we conceive inside our head, that is what we call the mind. And there are actually at least 3 minds that I would touch up on today. It's the conscious mind. It's everything that you are aware of. It's our analytical mind, the logic mind, that creates a separation between what is the external environment tells us and what we allow ourselves to sink in. And then there's subconscious mind. That's actually where our habits, behaviors, the patterns that we just talked about reside. So usually when people talking about mind, they take into account the conscious mind that we're used to, something that we're constantly aware of. However, in order to sync the behavior and change the pattern, you need to address the subconscious mind, because if they're in conflict, if all these 3 are not aligned and they're in conflict in some way or the other, then you will not change the behavior. And the example of it is New Year's resolution. how many times we've decided that we are going to follow through that exercise routine, or we're not going to be eating certain foods, or we'll take on some behaviors to see our family members more often. And then usually it wears out after a couple of weeks to a few months. Why? Because consciously we've decided, we really paid attention. We're not going to lie to ourselves.
Right.
But our subconscious had some kind of conflict there, some belief that could arise from the family time, from the childhood, or anything that we adapted as part of the society, that's not acceptable rule. Maybe eating a cake is soothing. It soothes emotional trauma that has happened. So that conflict would not be addressed if we are keeping in our logical mind only. That's why the practices of, especially meditation, the meditation is a practical aspect of mindfulness. In meditation, we strive not to really clear the mind. Have you heard sometimes when people say like, oh, I cannot meditate because I cannot clear my mind. I keep thinking.
Right. Too much thinking going on.
Yeah,
People
too
say,
much.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
Exactly. Well, the goal is not to empty the mind. The goal is to actually go beyond the mind, meaning that on the brainwave level, our brainwaves, whenever we are thinking, they're faster. When we start to slow down, the same process as when we are winding down to go to sleep, our brainwaves start to slow down. And that's where we can go into deeper levels of subconscious and then below the analytical and logical mind. And that's what's called no mind zone. So that's where you actually, it's not like you're quieting your mind. You actually go below the one level below it. So there's nothing to quiet anymore. It's quiet by definition.
Mm-hmm.
So this segment of no mind reminded me of that aspect that we usually overlook, basically because there's not enough education. It's not something that you read or hear in the news about the brain waves and the mind. So that's why I believe that education about mindfulness and meditation in the workplace is so important. So people can, at will, change their brain waves. It's a trainable skill. It's not something that is reserved for certain magical experiences. You can train yourself just like the way you're going to sleep every night or waking up.
So what I really like about what you're saying here is, you know, and to use your New Year's resolution example, which I really enjoyed, if you think about it the way you're talking about it, it's not so much that like you're lying to yourself or you don't have the willpower. It's that there's a different part of you that you haven't realized and that you haven't accessed that is literally, like, well, not literally, but figuratively fighting against you, right? It's getting in the own way because part of your mind wants to do one thing, but perhaps like a subconscious, more powerful part of you wants to do something else. And those two are in conflict, and oftentimes the subconscious part wins out despite all the logic and thinking and willpower of the conscious mind.
Well, it's not oftentimes, it's all the time. Our subconscious is way more powerful than our conscious mind.
Yeah.
Because subconscious is responsible for your heartbeat, for your breathing, for all the systems around. It's when I do my seminars, I always ask, our conscious mind can process about 40 stimuli per second. How much do you think our subconscious can process?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. How many? A billion?
Well, about 20 million.
Wow.
So 40 versus 20 million, that is a lot of things that is a lot of power that we are underestimating. Our subconscious is the most powerful computer known on Earth right now. We have not been able to replicate it yet.
And I think I had heard the analogy somewhere where, you know, our conscious or our ego is like the rider on an elephant, right? And we think we're telling the elephant where to go. But if the elephant doesn't want to go there, there's nothing that we can do to make the elephant go somewhere they don't want to go.
Yes, I use the analogy of the iceberg. Our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, but where does the iceberg goes? That's the mass below the water. And if we don't pay attention to what's below the water, below that conscious mind, then how would we determine our direction?
So just at a higher level, what are some things that help people gain more access to that lower level and maybe start to shift things, even if it's just becoming aware of what's really going on?
Hands down, it's meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation is a form of self-observation. Journaling is another open form. When you start journaling about things, emotions, or patterns that you start to notice. Usually if you journal about certain things for a period of time, a week or 2 weeks, you start to see those subconscious patterns. Anything that brings the awareness of becoming more present. So whatever activity that for you to cultivate the quality of presence. And by present means being physically and mentally in the same place. So you're not checking out on the phone while you're sitting in the room, in the doctor's room, but you're actually paying attention to everything that is happening. And one of the easiest way for anybody to do that is through connection with your body, because your body is constantly present. Your body cannot really wander, your mind can. So within your mind, we can go and time travel and do different tricks. Body is always present. So if you start paying attention to the body consciously, noticing the tensions. At the workplace, what do we usually do? We sit in the computers, we are on our phones, everything is crumpled up, our stomachs are tight because we're sitting, we're crunching. So consciously starting expanding, opening up the shoulders, realizing the tension, releasing it, realizing the tension on the face, releasing it, and making it a practice, making it something that you create as a habit. And in the beginning, it requires, like any habit, setting up the alarms. How are you feeling now? Relax your shoulders, whatever that is for you. It's self-observation. That's why meditation, I say it's number one powerful tool, because it teaches us the skill of self-observation. We don't value it anymore because we're so crunched on time all the time. We're rushing to the next thing. But if we invest the time to develop the skill of self-observation, which leads to self-mastery, we are going to become better professionals, better human beings, better parents, better everything.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I think this next scene will be familiar to a lot of families.
It's subtle, so she doesn't notice. So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay,
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on. She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband. Ahem.
With a nice pass over to Reed, comes across that right.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now. Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
Boo, I'll be Joy.
School was great, all right?
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude.
No. Stay happy!
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well...
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
The foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
So Oksana, what's your reaction to seeing that?
Well, this is actually non-mindfulness in action, and the reason why I like this episode, it also shows the connection with emotional intelligence. And you had a fantastic episode on emotional intelligence earlier, which I encourage everyone to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
So mindfulness is only applicable when we can apply it in action, just like everything. And here's an example of people mind wandering or not being able to control their emotions and react in the present moment. because there is no training, or there's just emotional disconnect sometimes that happens. So the husband is clearly checking out or mind wandering, and this is a clear representation what in fact we do almost 50% of the time. We're not where we are, we're not paying attention, and that creates conflict in communication, that creates miscommunication at the workplace, in the families, between social circles. So the practice of mindfulness could help resolve some of those situations, and by simply being more aware of what people are saying, and being more tuned into their emotional states.
You know, one thing I've really noticed, and connection is kind of an area that I'm fascinated in. People notice when you're not there. I mean, they're not stupid, or even if they are stupid, they don't have to be smart. Like our minds, our brains are very observant, and we can tell when someone cares about us, when someone's somewhere else. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that out. And I feel like that lack of mindfulness, that lack of being with the person you're in front of, is really damaging. Even if it doesn't come out right away, I feel like cumulatively it can really damage your relationship with others, whether it's at work or at home. What have you found with your clients and through your work? What are some of the issues that come up?
Well, I work a lot with the leadership level, the entrepreneurs and business owners, and quality of presence, and cultivating the skill of quality of presence. Because with distraction and the technology, it's not like we don't want to be present. Because if there's something interesting in front of you, you're all in. It's the times where we label things as uninteresting to us, or we label things as we know them already. So it's the matter of finding genuine curiosity into what is in front of you and how to do that. So altering your mental narrative about what's going on in front of you. And through that, cultivating that quality of presence where you're not pretending like you are interested, you are genuinely interested in another person. You are fully invested into being with them. And as I said, this skill has been lost because of all the distractions that we are facing. And it's the matter of putting the practice in again. And just like we learned to walk one time, is relearning, or I guess not relearning, because it's inherently within us. It's rediscovering that skill and reconnecting and being intentional about it, knowing why you're doing it. And one of the qualities of or benefits for the companies implementing mindfulness at the workplace is the quality of collaboration, communication, vulnerability between the leader and the team, between the leadership team and within the employee circle.
Now, you've used the word curiosity a few times when you're talking, and I find that really fascinating, because I think what happens a lot is, culturally, a lot of us are thought to be very individualistic, right? Rely on yourself, depend on yourself. If you work hard and have the right work ethic, you can be, number one. Being number one is best. And so we're almost indoctrinated to think of ourselves as sort of independent from everyone else. And that makes you, in a way, not as curious about other people, because you see yourself as somewhat separate from other people, rather than us all kind of being part of one, I mean, not to get corny, but humanity, or one. So like how all of what we do really impacts each other. And it's not just about me, I'm totally separate from you, whether we're in the same room talking to each other or not. Do those sorts of concepts sort of come up in your teaching?
Absolutely. Being individualistic is one of the roots of the problem for the levels of stress and anxiety and depression that we're experiencing right now on the global level. From one side, it was relevant. It created a lot of opportunities and entrepreneurship for people, and that's why America is great as it is that individualistic approach. However, there must be balance. You cannot just think about me and I. That brings the ego to the levels where it's pretty much unstoppable, and we start to identify with the material things in the essence of the world and the physical plane more than what actually fulfills us as individuals. We are also energetic beings. We are emotional beings. and disregarding our inherent desire to connect with others. This is one of our human needs, is the connection for others. And when we pay attention too much to our ego, we jeopardize that need because they're in direct conflict. You cannot be individualistic and genuinely connect to someone. So there must be balance, just like everything. We're no longer in a survival. We're no longer, at least the majority of the world, are not at wars where the individual survival was relevant. So now it's time for that global connection, socially responsible businesses, cultivating human relations at work, being vulnerable as a leader. And that's what is the new competitive advantage. The companies that embrace those principles and those concepts are the future leaders, and those would be benefiting the customers themselves in the long run and their employees.
Yeah, mindfulness is a competitive advantage. I really like that. Sometimes a teacher can learn as much from their students as their students learn from them. So let's take a look.
Sir, they can cut the chain off the door, but they can't make us play.
We've decided we're gonna finish what you started, sir.
Yeah, so leave us be, coach. We got shit to do, sir.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Sir, I just want to say thank you. You saved my life.
Thank you, sirs. All of you.
What can we learn from this scene, Oksana?
Well, this is a beautiful example of what more mindfulness and meditation offer. Usually people get drawn to these tools because of the stress relief, the healthcare benefits, the connection between the people. What it offers, though, on a deeper level is that deep spiritual connection to your own meaning of life and your own needs, that understanding who you are and what is the purpose of life, why we're all here. And it's not coming from intellectual knowledge. It's not something that I can tell you and you'll get it. It's something that you start to experience within yourself, within your heart, when you start connecting to yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. And in this particular clip, which I absolutely love, I love the whole movie, is the concept that we all have the dark and the bright side of our personalities, and it's the matter of figuring out how to make your dark sides a little brighter, but accepting the full you, so then you can shine and be authentic with yourself, at the same time enlightening others with your presence, gifting them with your attention, and sharing who you are open-heartedly. And that is something that I think nowadays world could share a little more, especially we hide behind the technology, we hide behind social media, being afraid to express the brilliance that we all have. We're all individual expressions. There is no one else like us. Each one of us is inherently unique, and it's important to get connected to that uniqueness and take pride of it, not trying to be like someone else. And that takes practice, that takes courage, that takes that, what they were talking about, overcoming that fear of playing small. as much as we want to succeed and achieve, we also play it down, and we try to be smaller than we really are. So it's that expansion, expression, and figuring out what are your light sides and what are your gifts, and falling in love with yourself again and again.
Yeah, I really like that. And two things that you said that I thought while you were talking is one that, you know, when you can really figure out what that is, when you can take the time to figure out what that is and access that and sort of live that throughout your life, that is so powerful. And you were saying shining the light, and that really comes from really believing in what you're doing and knowing that it's aligned with your purpose. That's such a powerful thing. And the other thing that you made me think of was, it is kind of safe to be in a bottle or a box, right? For a time being. You can't always go everywhere at once, but what the problem with being in a box or a bottle is it's limited. And sometimes you start to grow and outgrow that box, but it's much safer for us to stay in the box, because you go out the box and you're not sure what's beyond the box. I just find that a very interesting sort of perspective that you have, that, you know, we can do that by really figuring out what we're doing.
Well, the 2 points are kind of connected together. The way I view it, when you can connect to the essence of who you are, that becomes the strongest energy resource.
Yes.
We're all striving for energy. It's everything around us is energy. It's give and take. So when you're able to identify that uniqueness about you, that passion and your drive, that becomes the strongest energy resource. Even when you're tired, even when you didn't have a meal, when you didn't sleep, that essence, we all been there. Mm-hmm. It's just something that you can call upon at will. It's that practice of using that state of flow, understanding yourself on demand. And that unites to the second aspect that you said. Sometimes the box is not something that we choose. It could be the environmental box. It could be your family that is holding you back, your culture, your country, your environment. And that's why, going back to the beginning of our conversation, traveling and experiencing other people's lives, opinions, cultures, that helps train that skill of going out of the box. And it doesn't have to be physical presence nowadays. Is watching documentaries, it's experiencing, reading books about other cultures, doing something new that you have not done before, and expanding those boundaries and making it a practice to go out of the comfort zone. So the next time that little heartbeat, that when you do something unusual for yourself, it becomes lesser. It's like a muscle. You are able to take in more. And life always presents grander challenges, and we're only as big as our problems. So the bigger the problems mean the grander you're becoming.
I love it. All right, that's a great segue into our next and last clip. So you ever notice how life and death situations seem to really bring things into focus, like in this next movie?
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Archers ready.
Archers! Knock! Knock!
Atlas!
3 weeks from now, I will be harvesting my crops. Imagine where you will be, and it will be so.
Hold the line! Stay with me!
If you find yourself alone, riding in green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled. For you are in Elysium, and you're already dead! Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
So Oksana, what are your thoughts on this clip?
This is a beautiful presentation of mindful leadership. This is something that I work on with business leaders and executives to embody in the way we approach life and work. The groundedness, I love this movie. The Gladiator is just a fantastic movie. I watched it I don't know how many times. And it's really timeless because of the qualities that he represents. It's the groundedness, absolute self-mastery, his emotional and mental state always clear. He's the same everywhere. When he was a general and when he was a slave, he was the same, he had the same values and he carried these values in the same way. So it's that consistency that we are looking for in the leadership and in our life, that we don't need to switch between multiple personalities. We know who we are, we're connected with ourselves, and if we truly do that, it becomes applicable in all case scenarios. The second aspect is the humor. We take life sometimes a little too serious, and I've seen a lot of mindfulness teachers that it's really like long faces and it's all serious and you must practice and respect the practice. And I take it, I don't have anything against I actually use the hand gestures. I think it's very cool. But just the daunting aspect, self-discovery, it's not a daunting process. Mm-hmm. Meditation is not a boring had to do chore. We need to change our perspective on how do we approach practice and life in general. Life is a play, life is a joy. Otherwise, what's the point? I just refuse to believe that life is for us to be boring and work and accumulate and just run around pretending like we're super busy and that's the most important thing. It's taking it with more lightness, and the way he humors death is definitely the way that we should consider our own approach to life and work and relationship. And he said it at the end that the way we live our lives echoes in eternity. When we are able to cultivate the states of joy, the states of presence, the states of gratitude, these are timeless values. They're not stamped, they would never expire. Happiness, remember yourself laughing the last time? Was it like, oh my God, time, like I cannot laugh this much? It's just flows. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the goal for all the practices and what I teach the people. If there is a goal, because it's actually a journey and it's a process, but people always like, what's the goal? How do I win this whole mindfulness thing, right? So I say you win it by being more happy. You win it by feeling well, experiencing life in bright colors, and really enjoying who you are and not taking it all so serious, and be able to stop whenever you feel that it's the time and continue whenever you feel that you need to persevere.
So I am totally sold on everything you're saying. I agree with it 100%. Let me ask sort of what I feel is a key question. When you see a lot of times people moving up in the ranks of leadership, and maybe as they were beginning, they were more grounded and they had that sense of joy and that, servant leadership, towards the people that they worked with, and things were great. What people see happening a lot, that it's almost a stereotype, is people go higher, they kind of lose some of that, right? And they shift, and their personality or their outlook almost changes. What do you think is going on there in terms of either mindfulness or other dynamics that could cause someone who maybe perhaps at one point was one way, and as they move up the ranks, they drastically change?
Oh, it's interesting you asking this question, as I was just reading this last couple of days, the Harvard Business Review book on authentic leadership, and I completely agree with the views there that there are mostly generally two types of people. And when we get more power, or when our responsibility grows, these two types, one is chameleon, meaning that they could evolve and change their leadership style without feeling fake. They just take it as, I'm testing new things, I'm adjusting to the current scenario, and I'm progressing with the situation. And then there are fixed leaders that they achieve that promotion or that project because of their set traits, because they were productive or they were performing well. And they decided that at no cost they could change those traits because that will jeopardize the promotion. So they're becoming less adaptable and less flexible. And they feel fake if they change, if they start to progress and alter their style. So the key here is, number one, becoming aware, and that is the training of mindfulness, of focus and awareness. Usually the team, the members, the environment will give that feedback, and in such case it's cultivating the beginners, the learning mentality, where you take it as, this is not the progression of where I was. This is a new task. This is a new plane. This is a new beginnings. How can I adapt and adjust to it? And these are skills that overcoming the fear, being honest with yourself, first of all, because a lot of times we just kid ourselves on what needs to be done and how things need to be done. So it's having those open and honest conversation within yourself, and it all boils down to time. Finding the time to reflect, finding the time to estimate, finding the time to talk to people. A lot of times we are not using the most direct tool, which is our employees or peers, to ask them for feedback, for recommendations. How do I do? And that all requires courage and awareness.
Yeah, I think you answered sort of the last question I wanted to ask you, because it's been a current that's been running throughout our conversation, which is, why don't people self-reflect more, right? Whether it's through mindfulness training or meditation, why is the tendency so much to not ever be able to pause and just reflect and journal or whatever it is? It's just to keep going. What is it that you see that kind of stops us from doing something which would be very useful for all of us, I believe?
It's the momentum. It's the momentum of technology that we've created. Again, going back to the conditioning that we believe that more and faster is better. And unfortunately, for the majority of people, it would only take some kind of drastic event to snap out of it. It's the nature of humanity, the nature of being human, I guess, is not paying attention and continuing with the momentum unless something drastic happens. My hope and sincere desire is to give people the wake-up call and address those issues before anything major happens, and give them the opportunity to have that choice. And to my delight, there are plenty of people that take on these practices because they feel something. They feel the change, they feel the benefits, and it's the matter of consistency. It's consistent practice, consistent follow-up. That's why when I work with companies, my preferred method is actually long-term commitment, because then we can really start addressing those subconscious beliefs. Why do people not change? The culture, the environment. Usually it starts with the leadership. Yes, they want to implement mindfulness in the workplace, but then they don't really find it appropriate for people to take 10 minutes for a break. I'm like, well, how is that going to work together? We're going to be all mindfully stressed.
Yeah.
No such thing. So it's really understanding that it's not one thing, it's the combination of the things. It's the internal environment, the internal belief, the mental, physical conditioning, and then it's the external environment that either enhances or stops us from being one way or the other. And it's important to address on different levels and look into multiple perspectives of how to bring it back into the balance.
Well, thank you. You've given me something to think about. Oksana, it's been a real treat to talk to you and hear your expertise on mindfulness. Thank you, Oksana, for sharing your insights on why it works.
Thank you so much, Joe.